there, explorers. It's Jordan coming to you from the Happy Place East. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of the more underappreciated attractions here at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and that is Walt Disney Presents One Man's Dream. It's kind of a little museum and movie that sort of documents Walt's life, and there's a lot of different artifacts and pieces of Disney history and Disneyland and Disney World history inside there. And you know, here on Happy Place Explorers, we are all about the Disney and Disneyland history, and a lot of what I've heard is in there is going to correlate a lot with some of the episodes that we've done of the Disneyland Chronicles. So if you aren't watching the Disneyland Chronicles yet, make sure that you are tuning into those, and the stuff we see inside today may serve as sort of a precursor to the things that you'll see in those episodes. So if you will, join me as we go inside Walt Disney Presents One Man's Dream. We walk in and we're immediately met with some iconic photographs. Here's a picture of Walt declaring the Central Florida zone as the area for Walt Disney World, but primarily Epcot, the community of tomorrow, for which he really had a lot of ambitions for. We got Walt on a mine train through Nature's Wonderland track, and some early Walt there, early movie man Walt, and late movie man Walt. And of course, Walt within the Enchanted Tiki Room. And if we look right over here, we've got an extension of that mine train photo, but also one of my favorite photos of Walt Disney, that being him on the opening day of the Enchanted Tiki Room in Adventureland. So in here we find an homage to Walt's hometown, Marceline, Missouri. Inside this little exhibit here, we actually have his old schoolboy school desk here. And he's actually, you can see in this photo above, he's coming back years later. This photo was taken in 1956, and it's showing him going to his same school desk as an older man, seeing his initials and carved in the desk there. And those are the initials that are carved right here in this desk. WD, Walt Disney. Here we have Walt dressed up as Abraham Lincoln there, one of Walt's personal boyhood heroes. And we're going to be talking a lot about that in the upcoming episode of the Disneyland Chronicles, which has a special focus on the great moments with Mr. Lincoln attraction that opened in 1965. But we can see that passion goes all the way back, decades and decades before that attraction. So here we have a model of Main Street, USA. This is a pre-production model, so this is before anything went up on the actual property. And this was just the envisionment of what it would look like. And you can see there's a lot of differences, but mostly there's a lot of similarities. We got the Emporium there, and just a lot of the Crystal Palace, I know, is there. Very cool to see it in this form. You can see this model was done by Imagineers Fred Jerger and Harriet Burns. We've talked about Harriet Burns a lot. She was integral to a lot of the decoration, feathering the Tiki Room birds. A lot of different artifacts in here as well. Here we can see some early Mickey Mouse merchandise. This would have been from the early 30s, it looks like, 1932 to 1935. Yeah, they don't make stuff like this anymore. Can you imagine having a clock or a phone like that in this day? That phone plugs into the wall, I bet. These horrifying original plushes. I don't know if I see a slight resemblance to Mickey Mouse, but it's not uncanny by any stretch of the imagination. Here we have one of the multiplane cameras that Walt Studio was very integral in getting started.
Different elements in the scene were separated according to their varying distances from the viewer. With our original picture,
so each of these planes here are actually a different aspect of the photo, and when they're moved together with different speeds, they create the sensation, the feeling of actually moving through that space.
The way the multiplane camera sees it.
That's how we get shots like this. Very ingenious. Donald Duck, just like Mickey, has taken on a lot of different appearances, and he used to be much more duck-like, I guess.
The problem was how to take a painting and make it behave like a real piece of scenery under the camera.
Here's one of Walt Disney's travel trunks, one of his luggage trunks. This sort of represented all the trips that he and his wife would take all over, not only the country, but over the world. And it was on those trips that would inspire so many things that we see, not only in the movies, but also in the park. It was on a trip that Walt took to Switzerland that he got the idea for the Matterhorn. It was on a trip to Germany where he got wind-up toys that inspired things that led to the Tiki Room. So Walt Disney's knack and eye and passion for exploration really are important to the parks we know today. And this is straight up blowing my mind. I had no idea this would be in here, but this is the Project Little Man, the dancing man, the first incarnation of the animatronic. You can see it's behind glass. If you can see past my reflection here, there's a lot of machinery going on in here. This looks way different than I would have imagined it, as we talked about how there was just a lot of, it was harder to conceal, that it would be easier to actually have a larger version of Project Little Man, of this little man. I wonder if this functions. That would be crazy to turn this on and just see what exactly it does. Because I don't think there's any actual footage or recording of this actually in operation. So, who knows? But man, that is... I am so pleased to see Project Little Man in here. So we talked a lot about this in the Tiki Room episode, as Walt was discovering creating audio animatronics. So this is one of the important milestones in that process. So here's the back of the dancing man. You can see there was a lot of wires and cables and a lot of pieces to this puzzle that would obviously have been a part of making it move. So we can see that tiny little man on the front was being run and operated by this huge mechanism, this huge wheel of gears and cables and all this stuff happening behind here. So we can understand why they were thinking maybe bigger is better when it comes to audio animatronics. So here we have a reproduction of the original model of the Disneyland Castle here. Very cool to see it in this form. So then they had to go into the planning phases once Disneyland was secured. So they started with this original map. Can you imagine if there was a big hot air balloon in the center of Disneyland? Right as looks like the castle's more in the back in this one. Definitely different from what the final product that we originally got. We've seen old vintage footage of this this model specifically that we've used in some of the episodes, so it's really cool to see this in front of us before. We got the little boats represented here. We got the seems weirdly small to me, so I can't speak to the authenticity of the Dumbo ride vehicle hanging in the rafters.
About 5 minutes, we'll begin the presentation of
It definitely looks interesting. Even some nods to more currently defunct. Yeah, how do I describe this? Recently defunct. Here's an original model of Paradise Pier, which has been reshaped into Pixar Pier in the more recent months here. But here's the original concept, and a lot of those are still ringing true today. And oh my goodness. This will be the focus again of the next episode, covering great moments with Mr. Lincoln. This is the original, the first ever audio animatronic figure. They made 2 different versions of the original animatronic. There was this one and the one that went to Disneyland. And so this was the one that opened at the World's Fair, and this is the one that opened first. And you can see all the inner workings and mechanics inside this this model of the president here. Very crazy to see this in person. This would be the original one. You can see this is how they would all program them. And with this, they'd be able to tweak and adjust every little finite movement. So it's cool to see that here as well. But not as cool as this. This is a huge piece of American history right here. I knew these things were around here, but I didn't know they were in here. So this is something else. And even there are some models of a more current Disney's Hollywood Studios here with Batu, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. We got some models for the Hollywood Tower Hotel, a model of the Tree of Life, and a model of the ever impressive Spaceship Earth. I think what they ended up creating was far more impressive than this already impressive model. Insane. The original Mr. Lincoln animatronic right here in Disney's Hollywood Studios. Very cool. So now we're going to step inside the Walt Disney Theater to see the actual show, One Man's Dream, which is just a movie chronicling a lot of things that happened in Walt's life. So we just got out of the show, out of the museum, and really nice little homage at the end there. There's about a 15-minute, really quick overview of Walt's life. It's narrated by Julie Andrews, and it covers everything from his boyhood at Marceline, Missouri, all the way through, you know, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, the creation of Mickey Mouse, the full-length feature film Snow White and Mary Poppins, and ultimately the creation of Disneyland and the purchase of the land for the Florida Project. And so really cool to see that all on display inside inside here. I'm Justin Scar?
Hey, how's it going, man?
I'm a huge fan.
What's your name?
Jordan.
Jordan, nice to meet you.
And Allie,
You
I know
melting?
you.
Problem. Get a fun vid.
There we go. And Allie too.
Fun vid. It's a fun vid.
Fun vid.
It's a video self.
So that was something that happened. Where was I? We were talking about One Man's Dream and the cool museum exhibits that are in there. So next time you make it to Hollywood Studios, make sure that you go inside and check that out exhibit. It doesn't seem to ever really be that populated inside or that crowded. Definitely a little gem of the park with definitely a lot of little knickknacks in there for you guys to check out and appreciate the man who started this all, Walt Disney. You can also learn a little bit more about Disneyland history via the Disneyland Chronicles. And those are going up fairly frequently on this channel, the Happy Place Explorers. So I think that's gonna do it for today. Little nugget of a vlog today. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We got more adventures on the way. And I think that's all for me today. Until next time, we'll see you in the happy place. Bye.